Okay, hello everyone. So most of you should have the file up by now. Shayna emails you guys with the link to download it and everything. So I say let's just dive right in. So this is Maya. It looks kind of daunting when you first can I move this?
Yeah, it should disappear.
Oh, cool. So looks kind of daunting when you first open it up. So I'm going to briefly explain what all this is. So up top here, you see my cursor. This is your typical bar that's in a lot of your software file. Save functions, undo functions, delete functions. Yeah, that's the basic gist of it. What's most important right here is your shelf. So here we have modeling tools open. If you navigate through here, sculpting tools, rigging tools, animation, rendering. So this is like your main little shelf that you'll use to navigate around Maya. Over here is your outliner. This is basically every item in your scene, but we can close that for now. I don't know if it's open for you guys, so we can just close that. We won't really be working with it. Over here is the attribute editor, which will come in handy later, but this is, let's just say, I click on this pancake, I can see all these attributes about this pancake and what texture it has on it, stuff like that, its position in the space, in the scene. So that's the general gist of that. Right above, if you see over here, is the modeling toolkit. We won't touch on that today. That's perhaps another lesson, but one above that right here is the channel box. Just so you know, it's just kind of like an abridged version of the attribute editor. Just for like quick glance stuff, you get to look at, see where your object is in space. So now that that's kind of the basic gist of, oh yeah, and down here is your timeline. We won't be really using that today. That's for when you animate. Down here is your frame counts. You can adjust the size of your framing, etc. And then at the bottom is some space for scripting, which we won't, of course, touch on today. So how do I navigate Maya? You may be noticing you don't know how to move the camera. So how navigation is done in Maya is through a series of rotations, pans, and zooms. So if you look on your keyboard, there's the Alt key. So if I want to rotate around my pancakes, I hold down Alt and click the right mouse key. So hold down Alt, click the right mouse button, the left mouse button. I don't know my lefts and rights. I was afraid this was going to happen. Yeah, okay. Alt left mouse button. But if you hold down Alt right mouse button, you zoom in and out. So Alt left mouse button, rotate around. Alt right mouse button zooms in and out. Alternatively, you can also scroll in and out to zoom. And to pan is holding down Alt and pushing the scroll button. So actually clicking in the scroll button, and you can pan around like that. So just take like a few seconds just to get like acclimated to how you navigate a scene in Maya. Any questions so far? Cool. All right, so anything else do you want to start with? How to manipulate vertices and stuff?
Okay. So if you notice over here on the left side, there's a bunch of these little tools. So this one is to scale an object. So if you click it and then you have this selected, you can make it bigger. You can change its X, Y, and Z, X, Y, Z axis any way you want. But then the middle one scales the entire thing. Then this one is the rotate tool. You can rotate the object however you want. Click Control Z to undo it. And then this one is also to move it around. There are shortcut keys for this. W is to move it. E is to rotate, and then R is to scale it. So WER. So to make an object, you go to your poly modeling shelf, and then you can click any of these orange shapes, or you can go to create polygon primitive, and then there's a bunch more over here that are a little more complex that you don't have to model. So if you take a cube and then use your translate tool to move it wherever you want. If you press F, it will focus on the object selected so that you don't have to zoom in. You can just go right to it. So when modeling an object, you can right click, hold it down, and then you're going to get this little shelf stuff. So there's edge, vertex, and face. Edge are the lines over here. You hold right click and hold it down, and then you can have to keep holding it down and then drag it to what you want to select. So you can do that, and then everything you can do with like moving, rotating, and scaling an object, you can do with the edges however you want. You can, to select more than one edge, you shift and click other edges, and then you can move them however you want. And the same goes for vertex. These are like the little corners of each shape, so you can move those. If you select a bunch of them and scale it, it'll go like that. And then the final one is face, and that's each side of the shape. So you can scale faces and do a bunch of stuff. Any questions? Okay. So if you want to make, so we're going to make a chair today. So I'm just going to go quickly over how to do that. You can make it look like however you want. So what I would do is size it with your scale tool, and then extend it out a little. And then there's a tool called extrude. So you're going to right click, go to face, select the face that's on the bottom, and then you can extrude things, which will make you like a new extra level to the shape, so it's adding to it. So then you can just play around with it and make your chair look like however you want. But if you go to mesh tools and go to insert edge loop, this will let you insert like little divisions in between each place where you put them, and then you'll be able to create more lines. Like, you know how chairs have like the little poles underneath the back of it, like wooden chairs? So you could take that and then go back to face, and if you want to extrude that, you can make the like little poles, and then you can just make the vertex however you want and just really play around with it. So yeah, let me start over.
Yeah, I guess I'll just give you guys now like 10 or so minutes just to mess around, make your own chair. We'll both be walking around to help you guys in this process. If you have any questions, we usually just know. But yes. Okay, so here. So let's just start. So, creating an object with a cube.
The shortcut key for extruding is Control E, if you wanted to know that.
There is a few ways once you have, say, all 5 of those,
Mhm.
you want them to be exactly the same way.
So yeah, let me show you. So if you have a rectangle and you want the edge loops to be even, you can go to the little box next to it. That's the option box, and you click that. So then you have all these settings. It could be equal distance from the edge or multiple edge loops, and then you could set how many you want. So if you want 6 every time you click it, you can do that, and then click it, and then it'll create that. So that's in the mesh tools, and then the insert edge loop options.
So how do I add sections?
Okay, so you go to this tab, mesh tools, go down to insert edge loop, and then don't click it yet. You can click the little clear box next to it, and that'll bring up settings. And then relative distance from edge, you pick where it goes.
Wait, insert loop.
Yep.
Okay, then what's
The little option box,
okay.
and then it's going to pull up this little, okay. So then relative distance from edge is you pick wherever you want it to go. But then multiple edge loops, it will do an equal distance based on the number of edge loops you want. So like if you want 4, you'll put 4 in, and then in the little section it's given, it'll make 4 equal distance cuts.
So I did it,
Mhm.
and then I clicked on it.
Okay, yeah. You have to click on edges. Or like, yes. And then if you get stuck in this low vertical space, you just have to go back to one of these tools because right now that's yeah. So yeah, and now you have a option. What you can do is
I can keep editing now.
yeah. You don't have to be on edge mode. You just have to click on one of the edges. You can't just click a face. It'll have to be like one of the blue parts.
Yeah, just keep messing around with it. Oh, well, that's fun. It looks like. Oh, definitely.
I don't know why they're separated.
So yes, we're gonna go with the cube here. You want the bottom of the chair to meet the scale. Were those two different?
Yeah. So they're two different objects, but later on, once you're done, if you shift select both of them and you go to mesh, you can combine their meshes so that it becomes one object. But that's like later on when you're done modeling.
So there's well, it's filling gaps. It's not.
So what you'd have to do is go to vertex mode, and then there's this target weld tool, which it would take. I can show on this. You take 2 vertex and then you combine them, and it'll join them together. So that's what you do when you have gaps between meshes. But if you don't have to do just vertex. You can do like edge, and like tie them together basically. But yeah.
Do you delete the little sections?
So yeah, you've got faces selected, so you can literally just click delete and then select whatever's left.
So it would be like, if I want to do this, I just delete.
Yes. Let me show you what you can do. So if you have a face missing and you want to fill that space, you can go to edge mode, click 2 edges, and then go to mesh or edit mesh and click bridge, and that'll fill in between two edges and create a face.
So there's a start of the chair. Right click to go back to object mode. Yeah. Then you might want to swivel around and get like a look at what your chair is. Obviously you don't want to have legs now. So what you can do is you can add, I'm going to show a different way of adding legs from what I shot.
So,
Sorry.
so what I'm doing right now is I want to create the little legs.
So this is
What
different.
it's doing is extruding everything.
Okay.
The way it just extrudes the face.
Yeah. So that edge will extrude here. It's found, this is like a little and here. You can also add here. Yeah, control E. So then sometimes it doesn't do it, but then you
So you're wrong.
yeah, and sometimes if you like hit undo, it will like undo extrude. So that's what I'm doing.
Okay.
Go ahead. Select the face. I just select all six faces, so you can select multiple faces and shift. And then the same thing we did before, control E.
So control touch B,
Two H. Right now I'm in Word. Yeah, so here, an object in Maya is composed of different vertices, faces, and edges. Yeah. So for the vertex, this is a single. So when you edit something in vertex, to a single point. When you edit something in edge mode, it's the whole edge. When you edit something in face mode, it is the face. Totally. Let's say I wanted to add a circular top to this chair. Would I like to do it on this table? Yeah, so there's different tools.
If you hold anything that when you drag your mouse, you
I
won't
just
select.
click and drag
But sometimes when I put it just now, when I drag my mouse, it just says that I will choose everything.
Sometimes that's when you're in object mode, so object mode is your select everything.
Oh, yeah.
Let's select all the objects. And if you're in vertex mode, and you click and drag, you'll select all the vertex. So,
I forgot.
Do you know?
so you can just kind of like, let's just say, okay, it's looking a little short right now. So we can go to vertex mode, and we can take, it's okay, it's all.
I used to know it, but
Okay, cool. Yeah, so, okay, so that looks a little, it looks a little tall. Yeah. Yes, there's definitely around that. So, like, if you play around with it, move your verts and then move your edges and just. This is on the bridge, off section.
Just like if I want to go, go to a view that involves a top of the explore, it's kind of blocking my view.
So here's what you can do is you can isolate. This is a little bit more advanced, but I'll show you. So click on what you want to see, and Control 1 hides everything else. And then to bring it back, just click Control 1 again. Hi. Just pick any computer and you can sit down. So yeah,
Oh,
shoot us an email. have to make sure that's where you want it to be. So that's pretty good. Yeah. So
Is there an easier way to do what I'm doing here? So what I'm doing is I literally am selecting every single edge. So I want to extrude everything all at once. So I have to do it select every single one.
what do you mean? You want to extrude all the edges or the face?
So that's what I'm trying to do.
I see what you're trying to do. Are you trying to make this thinner?
Yeah. But I need to do. I'm trying to do it.
So there's a better way to do that, and if you don't right click on the object, to go into vertex mode. Position your model so that you're looking at it on the right view, or the side view. Perfect. Select, drag select. So there's something like marquee selected in model. So if you start your mouse over here, just drag select. Anywhere, just drag select. Yeah, the box. Around all those groups. And then you
It's weird. Cool.
yeah, cool. No, it's
That is a huge chair. So I'm just gonna do a little quick refresher for all you guys. I was explaining this to some people and it seemed helpful. So all objects in Maya are comprised of edges, faces, and vertices. So if you right click and hold down on a mesh, you can go to vertex. And if you click a set of vertexes, you'll only manipulate the vertices when you're in vertex mode. And that's these tiny little points. You can change an object point by point or marquee select by clicking and dragging and selecting a bunch of points all at once. Same with edges, which when you move an edge, that's exactly what you do. You'll just move one edge. Or you can click multiple edges and then move multiple edges. And same thing with face. So face, you click on a face, you'll move one face. But you can click multiple faces by the marquee and move multiple faces at a time. Yeah, sure.
Is there a way to cylindrify?
Cylindrify. I think he's talking about smoothing. So, how do I show this? I already beveled that. Okay, so let's just say I'm going to start with a new mesh. So I'm going to start with just a cube here. So what you can do is, let's say I just have some edge loops on this. I have some edge loops on this cube here, and I want to make it more like a cylinder. What I would do is you can press 3 on your keyboard while your mesh is selected, and that's the smooth object, the smooth mesh tool. So yeah, you can click 3 and it'll automatically circularize and smooth out your edges. And the more edges you add to your model, the more. See how I'm adding more edges and hi.
Want your AirPods?
What? Did I leave them? Oh.
Also, if you're, the mode she's in right now is just a view mode. It's not actually smoothing the mesh. So if you edit in the smooth mode, it might mess up the model.
So if you go out of that and you go to mesh smooth, Okay, not that. Select the object and go to Mesh Smooth, and then start editing. It'll show
Yeah.
you what the actual thing will be, because
Yeah.
if not, it's gonna mess it up. But yeah.
Cool. Okay, do you want to start moving forward? Okay, so we're going to start moving ahead because we still got to cover some little texturing stuff. So if you don't quite have a chair, that's okay. That's fine. Some houses don't have chairs. But so now we're going to move on to more texturing stuff. So obviously right now you have a chair and you want to make it brown. You want to make it match the color of the table. So click on your chair and then hold down the right click button. You'll see that familiar menu up top like this, but if you go all the way down to assign new material, release and click on assign new material.
How'd you get that again? Sorry.
What I did is I right clicked and held it down, and then I went all the way down to assign new material here. Everyone find it? So I clicked that and this menu should pop up. What you want to do is go down to AI standard surface. So the rendering engine that Maya uses is called Arnold, and that's abbreviated by AI. So click on AI standard surface, and you'll see that your model turned kind of white, right? So now this is where your attribute editor over here is going to come in handy. If you don't currently see it, you can click on the tab over here to open it up. And you want to scroll all the way over. So there's a tab at top that should say AI Standard Surface 11. Or in this case, it's 11. It might be different for you guys. And here are your material attributes. So we can have a whole lesson on this, but basically all you need to know is how to change the color, pretty much. So if you go to this color tab here and click on this white box, up will pop a color wheel, and you can select just like any other program, and you can change the color of your chair to whatever color you want it to be. And you can use this little eyedropper tool if you want to match it to the wood. So there's that. There's also some other material attributes like shininess. So specular here in the specular tab underneath it. A weight of 0 means that it's not shiny, so something like paper. But a weight of 1 is something that is shiny, so think something like a shiny plastic or like a phone screen or glass. It has a high specularity. So if you want a shiny chair, keep it at 1. Wood is generally around like a 0.1 or 2 is the quality for wood because it reflects sunlight, depends on its finish. So yeah, any questions with shading? That's all we're really going to cover with that. Super simple. So that's what we're going to do next is, let's just say I don't like the blue of this wall, so I want to add wallpaper. And I don't want it to be a solid color. I want it to have a file texture attached to it. So click on the wall, or both walls. I'm just going to click on one. Click on a wall. Do the same thing. Right click and hold. Go down to new material. Click on your AI standard surface material. Up should pop the attribute editor box. Over here at color, what you're going to do is you're going to click on this little checkerboard next to color. So here's the color tab. Go click on this checkerboard, and up should pop a render node menu. Yeah. So
The base and then this.
Yes, click on the checker box. At render node 5. Hang tight. Have you guys figured it out? Oh, you are already ahead of the game. Look at that. That's fun. Yeah. Yeah, so what you want to do is you want to look for the AI standard surface. And here you can change the color, and you can on this checkerboard. Go to File. And what you can do is click on this little file icon.
Oh, yeah.
And you can pull up, where did you save the project folder? Is it on your desktop?
It's that a JPEG file. So next I should select the
A
JPEG
JPEG
file.
file, or any JPEG file, honestly, if you wanna go onto Google right now and find any
Because I
JPEG
know
file,
better eyes.
you can project the image onto the surface. So, yeah, see, cool, yeah, you figured it out. So, yeah.
Cheers.
And then file. File, and then just pick any image, and yes. Oh, yeah, you can go there's. Oh, actually, so it's just like that one area, like, right, like, you know, and all of the ground. There was one that came in with the project folder.
I forgot one thing. If you guys like want to, I'll just use the wall. If you want to bend this wall, if you just move it, it's like a very hard cut. But if you click B and then hold B and move your mouse around, it'll show like a soft selection tool, which will smooth out the bend, or you can like rotate it so that instead of a hard cut, it'll just slowly do it and smooth it out. So that's if you click B, and then to adjust the range, you move your mouse around while holding down B. So there's that. Question? Cool.
Did you, let's do lighting real fast, and by lighting I mean just show us dome light, and then let's
Okay.
render it out.
Okay.
And then we're almost done.
Okay, if you guys, okay, everyone's gonna need a light if they want to render, or else you can't see anything. So if you go to Arnold in your shelf and you go to lights, they give you a bunch of these lights, but the one that's like the easiest to just put in is a sky dome light. So it's gonna create this big ball that is essentially a light. So if you do that, and then you can mess around with your settings, you can make it like
Like a green light.
green light, blue light, anything. So we can change that. It'll make the dome purple or whatever. And then depending on how bright you want it, you can change the intensity. So that's like the easiest light. If you wanted to put a light for the window, you'd go back to Arnold, lights, and then do like an area light. That'll give you this square thing. And then you can move it over by the window, angle it, and then adjust the intensity and exposure. Usually people change exposure to get a real like very noticeable change. Intensity doesn't do that much. And then there's soft edge if you don't want a harsh shadow, and roundness.
And leaves know which direction it's facing.
So if you see this, there's like a line. The line pointing is the direction it is facing. So like it's facing up now, so it's going to go up and everything. So you can do that. But for now, if you just have the sky dome light, and then you position your frame to whatever you want to see it.
Mm-hmm.
And then if you go back to, actually, okay, there's this little gear looking thing with a film thing, you know what it's called. If you click that, that's the render settings. And you have to go up in the left corner and see render using. And right now we're using a renderer called Arnold. So you have to make sure that it's selected Arnold and not Maya software or hardware, or else you won't be able to see anything. So then image format, you can change that. Sometimes we do JPEG or EXR. And then frame/animation, you want to make sure it's set to the last one is name underscore and then a number. And then if you were doing animation, you'd pick the frame range you'd want it in. Cameras, if you have multiple ones, you can change it, but right now we're using perspective. And then you can set the image size to whatever you want, but it can be HD 540 or 720. And then you can close out of that. That'll save on its own. And then if you go to Arnold, render, it'll come up with the image. And it might take like a second or two to actually render because it has a lot of information. And then once you see all like the little dots go away, that means it's done. And then you can go to File, Save Image if you want to keep it. I can add this light so it
Well, I want it
gets.
to be a little blue, but then like, but I want it to be able to have orange.
Ooh, okay, cool. So, which one's one? Pick that blue. And then make it push actually closer to the So, I love the if you go up here to this little shelf, this is your render shelf, click on the little render here.
Yeah, that's fine.
Arnold.
Kind of like all of that. That's like that.
So can you only see the lines after you render?
Yeah, they're not. You can't see anything. You can't see if your texture is like see-through. You might not be able to see it. Like there's a glass on the table, so you can't see it until you render it. You can't see lights or textures usually.
Oh, yeah, yeah, you really got that. Yeah, you really got that. So if we want to, like, add almost or add
Yeah, sure. I just have to.
So I think camera the way. So what you want to do is like just create the super set. Here is right next to that.
So,
Set up a scene, analyze it, optimize, add something, and then it'll teach you how to export numbers. You can have this too. Have you figured out the orange light? Oh, that looks pretty sick. It's giving me really spooky vibes. It's like a rushy setting.
How would I do that?
Do you want to make that video? Yeah.
What's my rendering still?
Why don't you go into click on this face, then right click and hold to get to face selection. can drag markers to select all of the faces of the window. And then if you hold down control, it's minus. So yes, you select all the faces you don't want. And then you're gonna right click on those faces, hold on, right click, go down to material. AI standard, right there. Okay. And it's pretty good.
Should I scare them? Should I scare them?
No,
I just
don't scare them. They're not ready.
Anyone need any other help for the shows that are prepared? Yeah.
It's not it's there's more rendering.
Well, no, but that's totally rendering, but now we're just gonna teach you how to export that as a JPEG.
What?
He did something cool. He did like two lights, like a blue light and a side light over the top of the
It's abstract.
This scene file is so small, but it's like.
Okay, so once you guys are ready with, you like how your scene looks, you've set up the camera so that you like the angle of everything, as Rebecca will show you.
So Arnold render. If it doesn't pop up, that means the window might be open already in the corner. And then you let that sit for like a minute or two.
Yeah, you can see the pixelation slowly starting to come more into focus. And then when it seems like it's done.
There's usually a percentage bar, but I don't see one. It's usually like in the lower half of the screen. In the bottom, it gives you like the amount of time it's taking to render. But yeah. But once that's done, you go to File, and you can save image, and then you can name it whatever you want. And then if you just go to that file, it'll pop up as a regular JPEG. So yeah, but you can also, if you want, select your entire scene, and then if you want to export it as an OBJ, like to bring into After Effects, you could go to File, Export Selection, in the little menu box, and then you can change the file type. There's so many options, but then if you scroll down all the way to OBJ Export, that'll export it, but it won't include the textures from what I've experienced. There might be some option to turn it on, but it never works for me. So you can do that, yeah.
So I could like take this, bring it into After Effects, and then put little animations in it.
Yeah. Like if you took it and you could move a camera in After Effects around the scene, you could definitely do that. Yeah.
Do you want to show them a little bit of Leica?
Should we?
Do you guys want to see a sneak peek of the production we're currently doing for our animation class?
Yeah, cool.
It's called Leica, and that's what all that stuff on the board is over there. It's the class that Rebecca and I are in.
Where is it?
Go back. Hold on, I know where it is. Post. So today we just pieced together our first cut of the film. We're hoping to finish it all up by the 30th. Here's what we've been working on for the past 3 months.
Yay.
Yay! So you guys got a sneak peek, which is cool.
Okay, we're ready. There's no sound.
Yeah.
Ignore anything that looks scary. This is a mirror.
Yeah.
Can't see any of it until it's rendered.
Oh, it is. Rip.
Rest in peace.
But yeah. Animation is no easy task. So I am very proud of everyone who has worked on this. It has taken a lot. But rip sequence 9. So
We lost this file today.
yeah, this file was lost today, rip. So we need to start over. So this is the very, very early stages of what will be a 2D sequence animated in After Effects. That is still in the works, so stay tuned. But if we just skip ahead a little bit, and running around the rocket, and then the parents looking on, and then pan up to the sky and Finn. And on April 30th, you'll see the final cut of that, which
Hopefully.
will look better, hopefully. So yeah, that's the very barest of bones, Maya.
How are you splitting that project up?
So we have about 18 people in the class working on it. So when we first started out, we split up with like 5 or 6 people on like storyboards and story development. Then we had about 3 people who modeled the characters. We had about a team of 4 or 5 people model the environment. We had a team of 3 people add bones to the characters called rigging to make them move. We had about a team of like 2 or 3 texture artists who add the textures onto everything. About a team of like 10 animators. And we would each like rotate off. So like every week we'd have a different task. I could show you some other like renders of it if I can even. Hell yeah. Wait. There's some funny stuff, but that's what it looks like rendered. Well, part of it at least. Going just through some stuff. Grass is green, and that I cried a few times to get that green. So but yeah, just some files from renders and stuff. Like yeah, we have a very unorganized.
No, it's organized for it.
It's organized for us, yeah. But yeah, so that's fun stuff. Test renders. Oh, here's some fun stuff. Ah, my grass. Ah. All right.
Only opened it to show.
That's it. Here's like Haley's bedroom, untextured, all set up, much like the room that you guys just poked around, except there's more stuff going on. There's the dad. shirt, early versions of what Haley looked like, later versions of what Haley looked like, the kitchen, you know, early version of, oh my God, remember when her eyes were like that? Rip. Okay, early versions of Laika, the dog. Yeah, it's just been a process. So, yeah,
What is that thing?
that's the soldering iron.
Oh.
Reference photo. But yeah. Animation's cool. If you guys are interested at all, anyone can take car classes. You could sign up for Car 101 next semester. I'm sure. You might have to talk to Heath and email him for permission, but anyone can take car classes. And there's an Orange Shorts animation group on campus. Join Orange Shorts.
We do mostly 2D animation.
They do, yeah. And also, the lab here is open all the time. I'm here a lot, and you can honestly just walk in and be like, hey, how do you do this? And I'll be like, that's how. And you can just come here whenever you want and hang out and learn on your own. There's a million tutorials on YouTube, and animation's fun. I don't know if you want to add anything. Cool. Yeah, that's it. That's all we have.
Okay. How do I stop this?